Hello and welcome to this little video on Unit 1 of the AET. So what we're going to do is just have a look at the unit and then have a look at the assessments for that unit. Okay, so if I just pull this over here. So this is what we call the unit or the module spec for this particular course. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So the Unit 3, which is the first one, Unit 1, which is the first one we do, is understanding the roles, responsibilities and relationships in education and training. So we have 3 learning outcomes. Learning outcome 1 is understanding the teaching role and responsibilities in education and training. And we assess that with these assessment criteria, which are to explain the teaching role and responsibilities in education and training. So what are the role of a teacher? What are the responsibilities of a tutor or educational provider? And then we're going to look at key aspects of legislation. So summarize key aspects of legislation, regulatory requirements and codes of practice. So we'll look at legislation which affects the role of a tutor. We'll also look at regulations and codes of practice, which in the case of education is the Education and Workforce Council. We will look at those. And we're also going to explain ways to promote equality and diversity and to value diversity in education and explain why it's important to identify and meet individual learner needs. Learning outcome 2 is understand ways of maintaining a safe and supportive learning environment. So we're going to look at ways to maintain a safe and supportive learning environment and also explain why it's important to promote appropriate behaviour and respect for others. So the safe and supportive learning environment is the physical space, but it's also that social space and mental space. We're going to understand relationships between teachers and other professionals in education and training. So we're going to look at how the tutoring role works with other professionals. So there'll be other professionals in your organisation, such as the admin team. There might be learning support people. And other professionals inside, but also professionals explain the boundaries of the teacher and other professional roles. So where does the role of the tutor end and where does the role of another professional come in? And we're going to describe points of referral to meet individual learner needs. So these will be things that arise from safeguarding issues or tutor concerns or learning needs. So, and we do these with a range of different learning criteria, learning tasks. So in Unit 1 it's a lot of task sheets. So you'll have task sheets such as explain the role and responsibilities in education and training, and each task sheet is going to be a couple of paragraphs. 300 to 500 words is probably what you're looking at to get the answer in. 300 should do it. So what is the teaching role? What is the role of the tutor? And what are the responsibilities? So the role of the teacher might be to deliver a particular unit, to make sure everybody's learning, to assess that education. The responsibilities are, what responsibilities does that person, the tutor, have for those learners in that setting, and to ensure everybody has a chance to learn. So that's task sheet 1, and the task sheets will be set in your sessions, and some of the time we'll actually do certain notes towards them, so it's very possible to get them finished quite quickly. So with task 2, which is summarise key aspects of legislation, we actually have this one in slightly 2 parts. So one part will be a classroom activity where we look at particular legislation such as Social Services and Wellbeing, Counter-Terrorism, Data Protection Act, and then COSH, health and safety, copyright, patents, Welsh language, etc. So we will look at some of those in the session, and then your responsibility will be to summarise key aspects of legislation, regulatory requirement and codes of practice. So you're going to probably summarise one of each or a couple of each, but once again the summary will work from the notes, so you'll only need about 300 to 500 words. Probably. Right. Take that one again. And then task sheet 3, so we'll be explaining ways to promote and value diversity. So what is equality? Equality isn't the same as equal. Equality is that everybody has the same chance of success. And we also value our diversity. So why is that important that we promote and value those? So you just look at some different ways that you could do that in your classroom setting. Right. Task 4 is explain why it is important to meet and identify and meet individual learner needs. So every learner will have learner needs. Everybody is different. It could be to do with bus timetables. It could be to do with distance of travel. It could be to do with physical disability. It could also be to do with ALNs such as dyslexia or autism. And then why is it important that we meet and identify those? That's another one for 300, 500 words maybe. And then task sheet 5. So we'll do an activity where we look at the classroom environment, physical and the emotional and social environment, and make some notes on that in session. And then the task sheet will be to explain ways to maintain a safe and supportive environment. So it's not what is a safe and supportive learning environment, it's ways that we can maintain this, or what would we do as a tutor or as a class. Right, task 6, here we go. Explain why it is important to promote appropriate behaviour and respect. Once again, 300 words, and all you'll be doing is why. Why is it important that we do those? And remember, all of these are just the assessments. The sessions will go into more details on these. So then, task 7, which is actually 3 learning criteria, explain how teaching role works with other professionals, boundaries between the teaching role and other professionals, and points of referral. It's a little report type style, which means you don't need an introduction, you don't need a conclusion. You might find having a one-word intro and a one-word conclusion may help. With this one, what you're doing is you're writing a little report on a situation where the teaching role involves working with another professional. So there might be a situation where your course requires 80% attendance. One of the learners is only attended for 50%, and you're worried about this. So then you would work with the admin team, who would then follow up that and try to work out what's going on with that learner and why they're not attending. And as you're going through this, so what is the role between? So where does your role end and another professional role begin? Especially in the safeguarding and care issues. And every time you note that, what you'll do is, as you're writing it, and we'll go through this, is you just cross-reference. So if you're dealing with a section where it involves working with other professionals, you just evidence that with a little in brackets 3.1, so that you're knowing which ones of these you're dealing with at any one time. So that's all of the assessments for Unit 1. So that's also the end of this video. Although actually the other thing that I should have just said is that you'll find Unit 1 on the Moodle, and I'll just quickly pull up the Moodle here. So that's not the Moodle page. I've lost the Moodle page. Put the Moodle page back. There we go. So on Moodle, your version of the course isn't there yet. It will be very soon. So you would just go to your unit, and then Unit 1 will have the learning outcomes. There'll also be this video there, and a whole load of useful resources to look at. In my case, when I do the unit, I'll come back to 35. I'll go through Moodle with you anyway, but there will also be certain areas. So the learning environment and introduction to reflection and learner differences and roles and responsibilities will also support Unit 1. So that's it for this video. Any questions, just ask.